Hello, race fans. Welcome to another episode of Short Track Guys Podcast, brought to you by ShortTrackExclusives.com. I'm your host, Thomas Battis, alongside two other short track guys in the studio, as always. Jim Pokrant, driver of the 07 Can'tQuitFishing.com sportsman here locally at Five Flag Speedway, and Ted Baber of Ted Baber Video Productions, also locally here in the southeast of the short tracks at Pensacola, Florida at Five Flag Speedway. What's up, guys?
Good evening.
Afternoon.
Yeah, and we first of all, we just want to extend an apology for some technical difficulties last week with what should have been, I think, episode 51. We do apologize, and we're going to kind of catch up on what we had in store for you last week, and then move on what we got this week. Well, actually, just tonight, and then goes through the weekend. So first off, we're gonna talk about Jim and his sportsman update from. You're still fourth in points now. After a couple of races, and how do you feel about that stable? And we're going to move forward into another Five Flag Speedway extravaganza.
Well, as you know, I blew my engine in the last race and went down the corner, and it just come all apart. So, big shout out to my buddy Ben Cranford for the loan of the 602 crate motor and the new VDL carburetor that we're going to try out the next race coming up. Thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate that. Hopefully we'll be able to kick some behind this next race. I mean, we've been running good. We were fast, but stuff happens, I guess. We'll be good. And a shout out to Ben Cranford for turning the fastest lap at the last race. I'm proud of you, buddy. And, we're going to get him up front as well. And we're going to finish this season strong and see what happens from there. But still enjoying it, still loving it, still ready to do. Got to thank All Pools, my buddy Rich Bonneberger, Ted Baber himself, who helps me out. Yep. Can't Quit Fishing, of course. Emerald Coast Remodeling and Trim, my buddy Mike Davidson for all his help. Bowman Construction, Marine Construction for the decals. And anybody else, Martin Beck, Will, Ben, everybody, thank you. And we'll get it done. We'll get one before this year's over. I'm confident.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Ted, do we have video replays or anything from that last action?
Oh, yeah, we definitely have some of that. Well, it was supposed to be on Monday evening on another show, and it didn't, unfortunately, show up. But, yeah, there's plenty of looks at what took place. What did and didn't take place, according to the interpretations of how things were.
Well, I know the season is certainly keeping you busy. Keeping up with the equipment and getting the in-car cameras and everything, right, with the GoPros, yep, with different drivers. And we certainly appreciate it. And thanks so much, you guys, for being here. And it's always a pleasure. And we'll get into that at the end when we sign out. I do want to give a quick shout out to a local driver, Bubba Winslow. I know we have preached in the past that there's only one Bubba in racing, but this one happens to be in our backyard. And we know him. And we just want to give him a congratulations for his win at Crisp last week in a Port City Outlaw car. And another shout out that goes to Grant Enfinger was in our episode 43, Champions with a Grant, which was really an incredible outing that we had with him. And congratulations on finishing second at Charlotte. I know you didn't have the finish you wanted this past weekend at Gateway, but you have 6 top 10s in the last 11 races. Congratulations, you're gonna do just fine, and we appreciate your effort. Now, we've talked about Bubba Pollard, which is one of our big dudes.
The Bubba.
That's right.
And, his qualifier win up at Berlin week before last got him into what is tonight's race, Money in the Bank.
Oh, yeah.
With a lineup that we are going to pronounce with some times. William Byron. Okay, I think we know this guy, right?
I think so.
4 come to mind. I don't know.
Winner in the Cup Series, I think. Maybe a couple of races.
He's been around. He's done a few things.
Yeah, he's done a few things. Not too shabby.
William Byron, Terry Seneker. I think we know a little bit about a Seneker.
I've heard those chassis.
Tyler Rohrig, Ty Majeski, and let's see, Bubba Pollard. Am I saying that right?
I think
Bubba
so.
Pollard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you got that one.
In tonight's Money in the Bank 150 up at Berlin. Man.
Go, Bubba, it's your birthday.
And unfortunately, we're not able to celebrate a victory for Bubba Pollard, but the race is tonight, so we'll have to keep close eye on that and maybe touch base on something next week.
That'd work because I'd like to see him get this one. He went up there into Berlin, which is one of the toughest short tracks to get around. That came out of Gary Ballou's mouth, who's one of the best short track racers in the country. Said Dick Trickle went up there twice and destroyed 2 race cars. One of them knocked a motor out of it and it burned to the ground. So, yeah, it's a tough place. But for Bubba to win up there against the regulars and now he's going up against this strong field, I got faith in my boy. Go Bubba.
I'm hoping for it.
Yeah, and I think Ted's got it kind of caught me off guard. It's a little unfamiliar of a series that just is developing, or what's the news on this series,
yes,
Ted?
It's called the Grand National Super Series. We've just been apprised of this by J.D. Boucher. He contacted me about this whole situation. They didn't have the best beginning they could possibly have because their first 2 races, Mother Nature took care of them, rained them both out. So they're trying to get started. They've got what looks like a 12-race season, and they're scattered between several tracks: Tri-County, Franklin County, Caraway, Dillon Motor Speedway, Goodyear All-American, and I hope I'm saying this right, Carteret County Speedway. They've got some good drivers. I know that Frank Kimmel's involved, and that it sounds like it's a really good series. We're going to try to see if we can get a little bit more information on it and keep up with it because it is a short track series, so that's something we're definitely interested in. I want to hear more about it.
Oh, yeah, that would be cool. I think that what they ought to do is take the old Cup cars that are no longer obsolete and make a short track series out of them. 602 or 604 crates, a 390 CFM 4-barrel with a stock type transmission and a stock type clutch. I mean, they're just sitting around rotting away. Why not? You could have 60 cars at a race.
We're going to try to get some more information on it and try to keep up with the series as it goes along. They have a pretty nice situation with the way they handle the races themselves, because there's a twin 50-lap feature, and this happens every night. Twin 50-lap features, $750 to win each individual race, like over a $16,000 point fund in money, $3,500 to win, and $100 fast qualifier. So there's some money out there.
Yeah, and like I said, you ought to be able to pick those old cars up for a song. I mean, because they're useless. They're museum pieces now.
Some of the other drivers that I'm aware of that are involved are A.J. Hendrickson, Clayton Rogers, Kevin Cromer, Mark Jones, Jason Shue, Larry Wilcox, and Eric Barber, and I see Lauren Butler, also one of the drivers, who had a 4th place finish in one of the first races they had. So not too shabby.
Pretty cool. Cool. I think it'd be a good series. It'd be something to watch.
Yeah, it sounds exciting, and we look keeping up forward to that just in the future. And in order to get something big, you got to start small, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So we like looking at that, and you could lure some bigger drivers in there and make it a really, really huge series. So it's in its what sounds like it's a youth stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think, I don't mean to interrupt you, man. I'm sorry. But I think personally a series like that ought not be for kids. They ought to make a series like that. You have to be over a certain age. Right. Because we don't want kids coming in and ruining it. Kids ruin the late models right now. It needs to be a series for older drivers, my personal opinion, and old Cup cars, and run them all over the Southeast. I mean, what would it hurt? And no NASCAR sanctioning, no nothing. Bring it in, do what you want, do the deal, and let's race. And like I said, you got to be above 25 years old to get in. That would bring in some of the older guys that are out of Cup or whatever to come in and run.
Well, the next event is in Callaway, Virginia on, June 18th at Franklin County. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about it.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good deal. I mean, if they do it right, it'll work. Like the SRX series, it's working, but you need to do something. You know, we need a short track series that's not going to cost an arm and a leg that you can travel with. Because super late models, you can forget it. Even pro late models, you can forget it. They're expensive. If you use old Cup cars, use old technology, no bump rubbers, big springs, shocks, keep the thing off the ground, make the car work like a street stock.
I think there might be some potential for them kind of migrate down here a little bit.
Well, a lot of the tracks are in the Carolinas and Virginias. It wouldn't be a stretch to come this far and have a little fun at Five Flags. I'd love to see that.
Well, yeah,
that'd be good.
Yeah, that's more, money for the economy, too, here. They kind of accommodate those outside races. But what do you think about being a kind of a regional thing in their area, and they just want to build their own thing for a while? and maybe venture out.
Well, they might want to do that first, get more cars out than what they've got right now. But once they get it going, I'm sure they want to spread their wings and get out here. And I mean, from what we're seeing, we don't have the information yet. It looks like they are using some of the old tech ARCA cars. So who knows?
Well, they could use old ARCA. They could actually make a series where you could penalize the cars that are newer to slow them down to run with the older cars. I mean, there's ways of doing it. It's just you got to be creative. Yeah. I think it'd be a good idea because, like I said, there's a lot of race cars just sitting around going to waste. They're going to get cut up and hauled off for scrap metal. They could race them.
Yeah, right. I mean, they still got all the safety equipment that they had before and all the technology that was popular then. Why not just upgrade it a little bit and see what happens?
Well, I mean, you got to consider some of the Cup cars that are a few years old are now sitting around doing nothing, and they're upper technology, better safety, good cars. Mm-hmm. The old ARCA cars were pretty good, so I mean, you could make a deal where it would be safe and the drivers would be able to race hard and have fun.
Right. Well, if you've got Frank Kimmel involved, you can't go wrong, and that's one of the names it's a staple in that center with the ARCA series, and Will Kimmel, his son, they're notorious being up front, running and racing. They've got videos all over the place, and if the Kimmels are involved in any kind of series, it's good stuff.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Let's hope so. I'd like to see it grow.
Well, I know, guys, we don't dabble in this too much, but I thought it was important, and it's sadly because of what we had going on last week with the technical difficulties, we weren't able to get to it, but I wanted to touch base on the bigger tier series at Charlotte and the incident involving Chris Buescher, with him getting upside down. And from what we've understood for the last 20 plus years, we can take Michael McDowell at Texas in qualifying and his accident. Of course, we're going to go back to 2001 with Dale Earnhardt. And, we all know what happened there and the aftermath. And then, we went through some changes with the cars and the safety issues. Michael McDowell was proof of what NASCAR had done when he was qualifying at Texas and got the car hooked down into turn one and went into the fence and flipped the car over with Michael Waltrip. And I think David Rudiman, was part of that group with that stable. I'm not completely sure.
Yeah.
But when that car got stable, and Michael McDowell got out of the car, I knew right then, after what happened in 2001, I knew that NASCAR had taken notice of what needed to be done as far as safety goes. And my question and our discussion to end this episode is what NASCAR has done outside of all the drivers' drama. There hasn't been a death in NASCAR since 2001.
That's a testament to every wreck is a learning experience. It's a dynamic sport. Things happen. You just never are 100% sure exactly how the car is going to react to any kind of input or any kind of situation. So you always have to upgrade and improve every time something takes place. And every time something takes place, we'll learn from it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The thing about it is, we knew with Earnhardt it was the seat and the belts weren't in, and there was a lot that went into that, and the type of hit he took. Nobody thought that type of a hit would have done the damage that it did, but it did, and it was. I mean, we were all turning the TV off, thinking everything's cool, and then all of a sudden, Mike Helton comes out and says we lost Dale Earnhardt, and you're like, how in the hell can that happen?
Exactly.
I mean, you lost Superman the way they look at it, but he refused to wear a full-faced helmet. He, not putting the man down. It's just the way he raced. That's just, he did what he wanted to do, and he died doing what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do it, and there's nothing you can do about that. But you can, as a sanctioning body, you can regulate safety, the safer walls, the seats, the impact absorbing foam in the doors,
the Hans devices,
the helmets, everything that's gotten better. Yeah. And they were talking recently about that wreck at the truck race at World Technology Speedway or whatever it was, and Carson Hocevar hurt his leg, but he let his winning net down. And they tell you in the drivers' meeting, if you're okay, let the winning net down. Well, he did, and they weren't in a hurry to get to him. So everybody's been criticizing the safety crew. And I'm like, well, if he was hurt, he should let his winning net up to let them know to get to him quicker, because everybody else let their winning nets down. But he was in a lot of pain. My thinking on this, and this is something that NASCAR should do, I think they need, and local short tracks should do this, have a traveling safety group that travels with NASCAR and does nothing but NASCAR races. They know the NASCAR cars inside and out. They know all the drivers, their health problems. They know anything they need to know. That way, when they get to the car, they can immediately jump in there and say, okay, this guy's diabetic. This guy has this guy has that. This can be, we know he's had concussions in the past. They know what to look for, and they know what could happen. You know what I mean? They know the cars. All the cars are designed the same now. So there's no excuse not to know how to get somebody out of there in a hurry. With Ricky Stenhouse, which I'm joking, Ricky Stenhouse. But when he flipped the car over and it's hanging upside down, they're trying to figure out a way to turn it over. Get the car turned over. Get the man out. Yeah. Because if a fire starts while that car's upside down, that man could burn to death because the fuel's going to flow down to him. It's not going the other direction. Yeah. I mean, there needs to be a safety initiative like CART, like Formula One has, that has a group of people that travel with, and they practice pulling people out of the cars. They practice getting them, safe. They practice taking care of them. I think NASCAR needs that. And I think short tracks, all the employees that work at a short track, whether you're a corner worker, whether you're stop and go, or you're the guy that does lineups, your job, you should have to attend safety classes. Because like with our local track, we have a guy out there that's a volunteer fireman. He knows his safety. Train getting people out of cars. Train if there's a fire. To get all the safety workers together. Put them all in fire suits. I know it's hot.
The Troy Grisotti fire, that scared me because I knew that he had challenges to get out of a car.
Yeah. And the kid that wrecked with him runs away from him, leaves him in. I grabbed my fire suit and my gloves and took off running because, if I was going to have to help, I was going to have to help, because I'm not going to leave a driver to burn up. No. But, there's a lot of things that could be done differently at short tracks, and it's not going to cost that much money if you already have a staff to have them come up for a day, pay them $100 each, say, come up today, we're going to do a safety thing, we're going to put a car, you're going to reach in, get the driver out, we're going to work on, getting him on a stretcher to do less damage, because if you go snatching somebody's car and they got a broke back, you could kill them or paralyze
them, right. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. What is your assessment of the success rate of getting Chris Buescher out of the car when he rolled over at Charlotte a couple of weeks ago?
I don't think it was very successful. In my personal opinion, 5 minutes is way too long to leave a man hanging upside down like that when there could be a potential fire or something. Get it done quicker. That's why I said you need to have a safety group that is trained by NASCAR and works on these situations. During the off season, guess what we're going to do, guys? We're going to Daytona. We're going to flip cars over. We're going to work on getting this done. So when we jump up, the wrecker pulls up, we know where to hook and where to pull it over.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Ted was talking about it. You could put one on one side, one on the other. Whoop! It would just be quick, easy.
Ease it over, yeah.
And it wouldn't drop if the driver's hurt. If the driver's not hurt, get a couple guys, push the thing over and let it hit the ground. The driver's going to be fine. You need a safety initiative, and short tracks need the same thing, because I've seen fires and things like that at short tracks, and the safety guy jumps out of the truck and he don't know what to do. He's like, what do we do? What do we do? And there could be somebody in there burning up, and they need training. Get somebody in there to train these people.
I watched a fire at Five Flags. Car burned for 5 minutes, and nobody even knew that the driver was already out of the car.
Tim Thompson. That was the night on the back straightaway. That scared the crud out of me. I was in the grandstand. No, it wasn't. I was on somebody's hauler that night, and I saw it. And I'm like, oh, my God, and then didn't know he crawled out the passenger side and took off. Nobody saw that, and I thought he was in that car on fire. Freaked me out. And then they hooked the thing up on the wrecker and dragged it in. It's still dumping gasoline. Yeah. And they're dragging it around the pits. I'm like, hey, do you see the gasoline right there?
That burns.
Yeah, you could burn up the wrecker. That's why I said the tow truck drivers and the track ought to work together to bring someone in and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And all corners, down there where Stop and Go is, where Tina is, they ought to have a fire extinguisher.
Yes.
Everybody who works should, you see Charlie riding around, he's got fire extinguishers on his four-wheeler. Right. That's good. But every corner worker should have access to a fire extinguisher.
Right.
They should all be wearing fire suits. They should all be wearing helmets. I know it's hot. I get it. But in my personal opinion, you might save a driver's life. You got a fire suit on, his car's on fire, you might be able to reach in there and grab him and get him out before he gets hurt worse. Or, if the driver's hurt, can we get in there and get him out? What do we got to cut? Get equipment together at these short tracks. And if you have to work with another short track that races on a different night, Five Flags on Friday night, Saturday night Mobile, Saturday night go to Montgomery with your safety initiative crew.
Right.
Take 4 guys and go up there. And you could do that, and it might save a life.
Have a core group of people that are trained to do that.
Exactly. Because I have seen stuff where, this guy could have died. Justin Bonnet, thank God that Russell Brooks was there, and he was brave enough to reach in that car and unbuckle him and snatch him out of there. That man could have died. He thought he was going to die. He said that he knew that he was going to die, and he didn't. Thanks to, shout out to Russell Brooks, who's a official at Five Flags. He did a great job getting him out of that car. And I think that every racetrack, it doesn't matter, Pensacola, Mobile, Montgomery, should have a safety initiative. They should have a truck, a 4-door crew cab truck with everything they need, and travel these short tracks. Because you got a bunch of hoo-haws, these guys that don't know what they're doing. They all run out there at one time. They're running like the Keystone Cops, and this guy could be dying or seriously injured. That's just what I'm saying. I'm not putting anybody down, and it's a disclaimer here. I'm not bad mouthing anybody. I'm just saying that it could be improved.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Foam suppression, fire suppression system on the truck.
Yes, something to stop a big fire. Yeah. It can be done. With minimal money, you could do it, or get, local fire department, or, there's a lot you can do to make it better. Because, one death at a racetrack and the racetrack gets sued, guess what? The racetrack's over.
Gone.
It's gone. The promoters aren't going to fight in court for millions and millions of dollars. They'll just shut it down and move on. That's my personal opinion, but I think that we need safety initiatives at short tracks. As a race car driver, I would like to know if I'm knocked out, I'm sitting in a car, it's starting to burn, they'll be able to get in there and get me out.
Well, it's not really like they don't have the initiatives in place. It's just to get a little bit more efficient about it when it does happen, and be more prepared.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
that's what
right.
I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's not that we don't have people that are there, but we don't have people that are trained. And that's bad when you got a corner worker right here could grab a fire extinguisher and start putting the car out immediately, instead of waiting on someone else to get over there, or the fire truck to roll over, the ambulance roll. You could start already doing the work. Right. You know what I mean? That's why I said they ought to train everybody.
So what appears to me maybe a super late model series, and there are how many across the country would have their own
individual core group of 4 to 6 people
do the same thing, repetitive, just like a pit crew does. And I understand,
exactly.
And
pit
I get it.
For safety,
taking the tire off, put the tire on, jack the car up, put the fuel in. Time is everything,
right?
Yeah,
and time is not only just saving a life. Time is positions on the racetrack. Yep. So I get it. So if we have a super late model or a pro late model series individually, or a street stock series that has their own crew, safety crew that goes and travels and does the same thing and is prepared.
Right.
You can do that, yes.
Right.
But,
so that's pretty much where we're kind of at with the safety thing. And
not only that, but like what I'm saying, if you have a regular Saturday night crew, the same core people work at the racetrack every Friday night or every Saturday night, you could get them together and train them on how to use the fire extinguisher, how to, get somebody out of the car without hurting them. Right. And that way they're all on the same page. Okay, I crashed going into one. I'm knocked out. The car's starting to burn. What are we going to do? Well, somebody's already up the racetrack with a fire extinguisher trying to keep the fire out. And then you got the next guy that's in there trying to get me unbuckled and pulled out to safety. It's got to be, trained. You can't think about it. You have to just do it. Right. And if you're trained and you practice, put a car out there and put a driver in there, a heavy guy like me, teach them how to pull them out, grab them just right, get them out of the car. Yeah. Do that repetitively. Do it 2 or 3 times a year, and in the off season, do it 2 or 3 times, and then it's muscle memory. Okay, the car's on fire. First thing we do is get somebody on the fire extinguisher. Then the next guy comes in and starts unbuckling the driver and trying to get him out. There's ways of doing it that would make things a lot safer, because right now you don't know what you're supposed to do, and you run out there and you're like,
Well, you got to keep in mind that every instance is going to be different, right. and it's more of an instinct, and your training takes over, and so it's more improved training, because you can't logically think that there's a racetrack that just puts people out there to say, if this car gets upside down, just go out there and run. And so I know we're not talking about that. That's pretty drastic. They do have training, but we're talking more improved training, thorough training, and a traveling, maybe a traveling training team that is occupied to understand situations. I mean, fire departments, police departments, all that they all
train too.
They all simulate
Right.
situations, and they get prepared for the unexpected, because especially in racing,
Right.
Well, why
the unexpected is expected.
why couldn't you start a business and that's what you do? Your job is to go from racetrack to racetrack and train the safety crews on how to do the right thing. You come in, the track pays you a little bit of money, you train them, teach them how to use the equipment, show them what equipment they need, and then go from there, kind of like a consultant deal. That's not a bad idea, you know, because you could have a good business doing that, and it would help the safety of short tracks. Because most people nowadays that die in racing die in short tracks. They don't die in cup or truck or anything like that. They die in a short track incident where, you know, you have a class that has no roll bars or nothing at all, and the car turns over and mashes the guy to a bloody pulp. I've seen that happen a few times, you know, and you got to have some safety.
Right.
You can't let, I mean, when I worked at Flomaton, you know, talk about roll cage and stuff, I mean, just gobbed up welds, and they were terrible, and they wouldn't let me make them park it. Dude, you're going to get killed in this. Nah, it'll be all right. I mean, guys sitting there with a bar up against their ribs going to the door, and I'm like, dude, if you get in that door, that bar comes, it's going to break you in half. I'll be all right.
You okay? You think so?
I mean, I had a dude that his belt was torn complete. It was a 3-inch belt. It was torn an inch into the belt, and it was real long belt to the back of the car. And I said, dude, do you realize that in a hard impact, that belt's going to fail? Well, I can't afford to buy no new belts. Well, you don't need a race car.
Yep.
You want to kill your driver?
What's your life worth?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I understand that there's to a limit. I get the money thing. But you could get a safety initiative to go around to these racetracks and train the safety crews, the stop and go people. Everybody just learns how to do something. Right. Because if you don't know how to do anything, then what's going to happen when there's a disaster is you're going to be running around like a chicken with your head cut off, and you don't know what to do.
Well, they've got a lot of safety situations in place. They've got a lot of policies and procedures we know about. It's all about improvement, and you know, we certainly, you know, we don't want to see anybody get injured. When a car gets upside down, the first thing I'm worried about is the fire. Yes. So, but we've got people out there, and if that's a structure that can be put together with teams and different sanctions that get to go and travel and be that safety crew, I think we had a race here locally at Five Flag Speedway. That brought their own too. It was the Hooters Tour. Yeah. The Hooters Tour brought their own, and they leased the track, and the owners and promoters kind of backed off and let them come in, and they ran the whole show, and they brought their safety team with them, and they did the whole weekend. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about. If they did that more,
right?
Yeah, I agree with that. But like I said, the local tracks need their own people trained to help, to do their own thing, because you're not going to have a traveling guy come in every Friday night. So, you know, you got some volunteer firemen, you got some people, you need to train them. The corner workers, the people that work at the speedway, your safety people, they all should be in fire suits. They should all have gloves on. They should all have access to a fire extinguisher. They all should be trained on how to get someone out of a car that is on fire or having problems. And you could do this. You could even train your tow truck drivers. Hey, okay, you get in here and this happens. We need you to hook up and flip this over or do whatever. There's ways of doing it. And like I said, you could get a business. I'm sure somebody out there would love to start a safety initiative business to go around to the short tracks, evaluate their safety situation, and make it better. Because, I mean, you know, I race short track. I don't want to get hurt. I mean, you know, you just don't want somebody to cause you to have a broken back because they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
And they're just trying to help. I get that. But if you would train them, just bring somebody in, train them. Then it's muscle memory. Okay, well, this happened. Okay, well, I'll run over and I got to do this. I got to get the wind in that now. I got to get the belts off. Got to get him out. If he's not breathing, make sure the paramedics get there. I mean, there's just ways of doing it that would benefit the local races, not just a traveling thing. I get that. NASCAR needs to do that. NASCAR won't do that. They need to have a nothing but NASCAR series, like the CART IndyCar series, just like the Formula One series. They have a safety crew that travels with them. Their job is nothing but safety with that series.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's really our safety subject of this episode, and it's always a process of improvement. You look at what happened in Bahrain last year.
Oh, wow.
With Romain Grosjean going through the guardrail and their safety crew getting him out, and he had some burns on his hands. Of course, I don't know how he was able to walk to the ambulance.
Out of the ball of fire. He sat in that fire for what, 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
Yes, it was. If you haven't watched that video, listeners, please just experience what we're talking about, safety and how the safety crew works and the methodical ways that they go through about what their jobs are, and we go through it in a daily life, just working a normal job. But these guys are out there protecting people's lives that are getting paid good money to go fast.
Yeah.
And so Romain Grosjean, he's now in the IndyCar. This was a Formula One race at Bahrain. Went through the guardrail at a very high speed. I think he hit the guardrail at 140 or 150 miles an hour, went through the guardrail. The car broke apart in two pieces. He went through the cockpit, through the guardrail, and was on fire, and they got him out and he walked away. So that's basically what we were talking about in a nutshell. We started with 2001 and how all the safety has progressed up until this point with the safer barriers, all the safety gear, the positioning of the positions where drivers are. That's pretty much where we are in the safety, and it's improved dramatically. And I think Jim's kind of standpoint and Ted's standpoint is we need more of that attention in the local levels.
Right. Try to get that kind of training and the upgrades.
Yeah, exactly.
Well.
Yeah, just to save lives. I mean, race car drivers, we put ourselves online, whether we race a street stock or a mini stock or a late model. We're all out there. We know the danger. It's just the adrenaline rush, and something bad could happen, and we know it. And we would love to have somebody there knowing prepared that if something does happen, that they'll react to it and possibly save a life. Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
Adrenaline and high octane fuel.
Oh yeah.
Well, on that note, signing off, guys. It's we've got some breaking news here that came up here about a half an hour ago or so, 20 minutes. The Battle of Berlin on a Wednesday night with William Byron on the pole, Terry Seneker, Tyler Rohrig, Ty Majeski, and Bubba Pollard. One of our heroes here in the Short Track Guys studio. Was going to start fifth on the grid. They had some inclement weather.
Not tonight.
Not tonight. So that race has been rescheduled. The Battle of Berlin 150 at Berlin Raceway in Michigan will be taking place tomorrow night at 6:30, I believe, Central Time. You can check your local
listings.
Your local. Love the way you put that. Local listings. To find out how to stream that. If you want to watch it, if you're a member, do so. Guys, it's always a pleasure to talk short track racing, and we look forward to this every week. It's going to be a great weekend, and we look forward to getting back together next Wednesday.
Yep.
And go Bubba Pollard's all I'm going to say. And
speaking of go, and there's something else we have to say.
Yes, right. Yeah. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's go,
Brandon. Good night, everybody. Thanks for listening.